Man, what Jesus did. Man, what Jesus did for me. Jesus took a man who was definitely on his way to hell, thought he was saved as a Christian, didn't know he was on his way to hell, and saved him from eternal death, separation. And that's what Jesus did for me. Now, it may not sound like a big deal because I think most people who call themselves Christians have probably been Christians most of their lives. But for me, I was, being a grown man, thinking that I had a real relationship with the Lord, came to a realization a few years ago that I really didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I knew how to walk the walk, talk the talk, look the part, that kind of thing. But as the word talks about, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof, that was me, and that's big. My whole life, as far as I know, maybe preteen years of my life, got into pornography, and even at that age, objectifying young ladies that were in my peer groups and older. Didn't really understand that's what it was, but yeah. And then when I got older, experimenting with sex, and it was a bad thing because I didn't realize that not only was I misusing God's daughters, but I was being entangled in a web much stronger than I ever knew existed in my life, and and I just thought it was part of what guys did, and then becoming an adult, bringing that baggage into a marriage, and cheating on my wife, breaking promises and marriage vows, sacred vows, Jesus saved me from that. I wish I could say it was sooner than later. I wish I had done things differently. I wish I had gotten myself together. I wish I had looked at myself in the mirror and said, man, you really need help. But I didn't. I just, like I said, it was just, one of those things I thought I would have to deal with my whole life. This condition. But Jesus saves, and there is a way to overcome any type of addiction, any type of dysfunction in anybody's life. And I'm speaking about my life. So yeah, that's what Jesus did for me. He took me out of a miry pit of lust-filled, lust-filled thoughts and a life of objectifying women and adultery, and set this guy on a right path. But even today, it still takes Jesus every day. As long as I'm in this flesh suit and here on this earth, I'm going to have battles. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be as intense as it was before, because I truly believe that Jesus does save. If he didn't or couldn't, he wouldn't be the God that he professes to be in his word. So, one day at a time, that's what Jesus did for me. He gave me hope. And when he hung on the cross at Calvary, he had not only the human race in mind, but he had me in mind specifically, because he knew exactly what I would have to go through. He knew exactly the trials, the the pitfalls. He knew the valleys that I would have to go through. And he had me in mind when he was on that cross. That's what Jesus did for me. He shed his blood for me so that I wouldn't have to die for my wretched, sin-filled life. And I thank God in heaven above that he thought enough of me to send his son to die for me. That's what Jesus did. Hey everybody, I'm ToddieFunk, bass player for Toby Mac in Diver City. Got a question for you. Do you know what Jesus did for you? Join us and tell your story.